Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Decryption and I hope you are well. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a follow quest in Narrative 3, because my game currently, you walk around and you speak to all the different drivers, and then I want this little girl here to run up to you and she'll be your best friend in the game kind of thing, and she'll give you all the keys, the races, the info, stuff like that. So she's going to run up, give you the quest, and then the quest will be to follow her around learning about all the different drivers. So let's get started. So I have some current assets currently pre-built just to skip a few steps, so I'll just show you those. The first thing I have is two dialogues for the girl called Lily. The first dialogue I've got is any dialogue that I want the camera to spawn and it to take over the player. So this is the type of dialogue that's standard, where you walk up, it freezes the player, it takes over the camera. The second dialogue I've got is the world dialogue. So all this is the dialogue where the player can still free roam, but she'll speak. So for example, the first step is she'll walk here and she'll explain about the bikers, the two biker babes, but you can still freely walk around. The last asset I have is this quest here. This is the quest I want to build it onto. So your current first objective is to talk to each racer. So you come over here and you talk to all four racers, and at that point that's where I want her to run up to you and then begin the quest, and then she walks off. So the first step, what we'll do is we'll begin with her running to you, because it's a really simple concept and it's really useful. So I'm just going to come down to my content drawer, and in my blueprints and my events folder, I'm just going to right click and I'm going to create a new narrative event called Move NPC to Actor. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to instantly come in and overwrite my execute event, and then I'm going to drag from my execute event and I'm going to type get all actors of class tag, and I'm going to open that. My actor class will be I'm moving an NPC, so I can safely get my existing NPC, and the tag I will just pull off and click promote to variable, and I will call it NPC tag. Now this is going to go off and get all the actors of type BP NPC in the world and then filter on the ones that have the tag. So because there might be multiple NPCs, we have an array out, so I'm just going to for each loop on that. From the completed, I'm just going to instantly plug in the return node, and I'll just check the value. So what we can do from this array element is we can drag out and we can do move from this array element. I can drag out and just do get AI controller. You don't need to create a custom AI controller to use this, but as Unreal already has one built in, but if you do, this should still work. And then from the return value, I'm just going to type in move to actor cell, and I'm going to plug it in. So if you don't want to move to an actor, but rather a specified location, you can of course also use the move to location function, which is the exact same, except you don't give it a goal, you give it a destination. The acceptance radius I will set to 5, and then for the goal, we need to tell it which actor we actually need to go to. But because narrative recreates the dialogue and the events on the fly, we can't give it a live reference to the world, because narrative can be spawned on any level. Lily might not exist on every level. So that's why we need to find a different way to get the goal. And the typical way I do this is if I drag this across, I will again come and get all actors of class tag, and I'll plug this in. Typically if you're referencing an actor, probably running to a specific person, so I'm just going to type character, because then this way we can use the NPCs or the player. For the tag, I'll drop down and I'll just promote it to a variable called actor tag. Instead of for reaching over these out actors, I'm simply going to get the first version and then I'm going to promote it to a variable, and I'm just going to call it actor goal. Now I've done this, I can clear up some room and I can plug it all in. Now what this will allow us to do is where we need to provide a goal, I can just drag in the actor goal and connect it to like so. So now what this event should do is first come in and try to find the goal actor we need to find by the tag. Then it should get all the NPCs which has the tag, so in my case will be Lily Thompson, and then it should tell all the actors, just in case we have a group of bandits or something, to move to an actor, which will be our player. So that means theoretically we can sit moving around the map and she'll chase us until she catches us, and at that point then we'll move on to the next step. So one last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the class settings here, and in the blueprint display name I'm just going to type move NPC to actor, and then in the category I will just set it to NPC, and I can compile and save. So now that's perfect. So on the meet here, after we talk to all the racers and this quest state begins, I want Lily to start running towards us. So I'm going to come in and add an event, and I will choose move NPC to actor. I want it to run at the end of the state, so after we've talked to all the racers. The NPC tag will be Lily Thompson for me, and just to make sure you've got that correct, make sure if you click your NPC and search for tag, they have a tag named their name. Typically, whenever I create a dialogue, I make sure that the speaker ID is the exact same as the tag, or I just add a tag of the speaker name. That way you've got no confusion later on. And then the actor tag will be player, because I always equip my player with a tag of player. So you'll see that it's currently set the event to any move NPC to actor, so let's just go and give it a nicer name. So I'm going to come back into my event and overwrite the graph display. I'm going to delete the parent, and I'm going to plug it back together, and I'll drag an append. So this append is how we can build up the name of it. So I will say move and then I'll put in a space at the end, and I will drag in the NPC tag, plug it in, it's a formatting, move NPC to, and then finally I'm just going to drag in the actor tag and plug that in just the same. There we go. So it should say move Lily to player. So now if we compile and save and jump back to the quest, you will see move Lily Thompson to player. Perfect. So just before we test it, one key thing we need to make sure of is the fact that we're using Unreal's included AI system. We need to be able to tell the actors how to actually get around. If you press P on your keyboard, if it shows something green like that, it means you've got a Navmesh set up, which is good because it means the player, they can move now. If you haven't got one set up, you need to make sure that you come up to the create up here, the place actors widget, and just search for Navmesh volume, like so, Navmesh bounds volume. And then you should be able to drag it out. As you can see, mine's here and covers the vast majority of my map, and then doing that means your characters can actually walk around. And finally, just make sure that your event runtime is set to the start, just so as soon as we finish this branch and we move on to this state, it instantly begins and she starts running towards us. So you will see, if I talk to the two girls, she will be stood still. As soon as I talk to Rusty, she will then start running towards us, as you can see. Perfect! And she runs straight up to us and stops in front of us. And because my NPCs have auto dialogue turned on, we can make it so when she reaches us, dialogue begins. And that's super simple to do. So I'm going to come back to my quest here, and while I'm moving Lily Thompson to the player, I'm going to need another event to set an actor's dialogue. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to create another new event called any set NPC dialogue. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to come in and overwrite the execute event, and then just like we did before, I'm going to come and get all NPC actors with tag and then loop over them, and then I can copy this in. I can right click the missing variable and just do create. From the completed, I can plug in the return value, and now we can begin setting their dialogue. So I can come across and I can say set dialogue, and at the bottom you'll see the purple one, so I can do that, and I can promote this dialogue to a variable like so, and that'll be the dialogue we want to set. And then I can also drag from this array element and I can do set auto trigger dialogue, which is something I've got set up in my previous tutorials, and I can now also drag this to a variable. So just come to the class settings and I'll set a display name, set NPC dialogue, and the category I will set to NPC. Finally, I will overwrite the get graph display text just like we normally do, and I will set it to set space, and I will drag in the NPC and I will plug it in, and I will add 2 more pins, dialogue 2, and then I will drag in the dialogue. So now when I compile and save and jump back to my quest here, I can add this set NPC dialogue event, and now I can come in and say at the start, just like we've done above, set Lily Thompson's dialogue to her standard dialogue, and I want it to be autocomplete. So now you can see it'll say set Lily Thompson dialogue to the non-world version. And let's test it again. You will see if I run up to the final NPC and finish talking to them, she will run up to us.
Hey there, new guy. Saw you wandering around looking like a lost sheep. Come on, let me show you around.
Perfect. So she's now run up to us, integrated dialogue, and you can see it's restarted, but we can solve that in a moment. So she's run up, she's instantly spoke to us, and that's going to allow the quest to proceed. So what I'm going to do now is, firstly, I'm going to stop the dialogue from double playing. So I'm just going to come to it and add a condition which basically says has dialogue node played, and I'm going to tick the knot and copy the ID from the dialogue and paste it in. So this will basically come in and say, can this dialogue be played? Has the dialogue node with this ID not played before? So has it only ever played once? So that'll stop her doing that. So now that we've actually made her run up to us and begin this, the next thing we need to do is actually listen to what she's saying and then follow her. So what we can do from here is drag off from the quest, and I'm going to choose play dialogue node, and then I'm going to go and copy the ID of this. So just holding shift, I'm going to right click on this ID to copy it, then back on here, play dialogue node, I'm going to come into the quest tasks, and on the dialogue ID I'm going to shift and left click paste. There we go. But what I am going to do is tick the hidden option. So it doesn't tell you that you're waiting for it, you just are. So once she catches you, it will wait for her to complete her dialogue, and once it has, then it will allow us to begin the follow quest. So how do we get started with the follow quest? I've gone through multiple different ways of recreating the follow quest in Narrative 3. I've done my old method where I create a blueprint, spawn it in the world, and tell them to go to places. I've tried creating a single task that handles all of it, and then I've tried creating subquests where it handles each individual waypoint of where you want them to go. And in order to keep it in line with the way narrative works, with the conditions and the events, I've figured that the best way for us to do this with a subquest. The subquest will be entirely hidden, the user won't know it's there, but it will be ticking just like this one in the background, telling the NPC to run to a location, waiting for them to arrive, doing anything you want, such as in my case talking, waiting for her to finish her sentence, then moving on to the next one. And then only when it's finally finished finished, then we proceed with the quest and tell it to carry on in the main quest. Now, I know it sounds a little confusing, but we're going to run through it, so it's super easy. So the first thing we need is our actually follow task. We need a task to tell the NPC to run to a location and for the player to be with them. So what I'm going to do is come down into my narrative blueprints tasks folder, and I'm going to right click, create a new narrative task. And I'm going to call it nt_follow-NPC. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to come in and overwrite the begin task event. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the NPC that the player is meant to be following. So just like we did before, I'm going to come and get all actors of class with tag. And I know we're going to be following an NPC, so I can say BP NPC. And the tag I can just promote to a variable, just like we do with event. Once we've got the NPC, you can technically only follow one NPC at once. You can't be following two NPCs because you can't split yourself. If you can, you'll need to find a different way to do it. So all I'm going to do is from the out actors, I'm just going to come and get the first actor. And then I'm going to promote this to a variable. And I'll call this NPC to follow. Now, if we just keep it like it is, we will see it when we drag it as a task inside here. So if I come in and add follow NPC, it's saying we need to give a reference to the NPC. And now, in order to stop us seeing this in narrative, I'm just going to come and tick the private option here, and I'll also move it to a private category. So anything that's temporary or cached will stick in there. So now that we've got the NPC to follow, just like we did on the narrative event, we need to tell them to actually go somewhere. So I'm going to get the AI controller. This time, I'm going to use the move to location or actor. And this gives us a better async task that will run in the background, and it gives us several events and things we can play around with. So I'm not going to use the goal actor. Unless you want to, then you can follow the same logic we did on the event, but this time I'm going to drag from the goal location and I'm going to promote it to a variable, which is where we need her to belong. I'm just going to rename it to dest for destination. I'm going to open it up and set the acceptance radius to about 5. So now we've set this task up, this NPC will currently walk to wherever we tell them to. So in my case, the first step will be behind these biker girls here, right there. But we need to make sure that one, that she arrives and we know when she arrives, and secondly, we need to know that the player's with her. So back in the follow NPC here, now there are 2 ways you can go around doing this. You can spawn a collision sphere and check if both the player and the NPC arrive, but I'm going to take narrative's approach and I'm actually going to use the tick function. Now this isn't a normal narrative tick event because this is a delayed tick event. We can set the interval of it. So you can see if you come up to class defaults here, you have a tick interval. So if you were to set this to something like 60, that would run 60 times a second on your CPU if your game is running at 60 FPS, which we don't want because in that case you may as well just use it. That's checking too often for my liking. So I'm going to set mine to 0.1, so it's not checking very often at all, but often enough for it to not really make a difference in the gameplay. So the first thing I want to do is I want to check, has the NPC actually arrived at the destination? So I'm going to drag in the NPC to follow, which is why we cached it. Then I'm going to get the actor location. And then just above this, I'm going to drag in the dest vector. From this vector, I can come in and say, give me distance, and make sure you choose the vector version. And I'm going to plug in the NPC. Now I have put the NPC on the bottom node instead of the top one, which is what I'll explain shortly, just to make the blueprint look a bit nicer. So from this distant vector here, I can drag off and I can do more than or less than. I'm just going to do less than, and I'm going to say 200. Is she 200 unreal distance away from her destination? If she is, if it's true, then we know she's arrived. If it's false, then it's. So we can ignore that for the moment. I'm just going to wrap it in a comment saying check the NPC's distance from dest. Perfect. Now the next step, what we need to do after we've checked if the NPC is there or not, is we need to check if the player is with the NPC. Now we could check if the player is at the destination, but it's a follow quest. You're meant to be following the NPC. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to right click and do get player pawn, and I'm going to, just like we did above, get the actor location. But this time, the reason I put the NPC on the bottom is we can drag straight from her actor location and then again do another distance vector and plug in our player's value into there. And now this will get us a float distance to how far away the player is from the NPC. So again, I will say 200 Unreal units. There we go. So now we've got 2 ways to check whether the NPC has arrived or is the player with the NPC. If they are both true, then we know the player and the NPC have arrived at their destination. So I can add a branch up the top, connect it into here, and then drag the branch to there. If it's false, ignore it. The next tick will just keep moving the NPC. If it's true, we can just come in and then complete the task like so. Now there are a few little add-ons I want to build into this just to make it a bit nicer and more reusable. I'm going to drag off from this player's check and I'm just going to add an OR command, OR gate there, and I'll connect the OR up to the end like so. And this OR here, I'm going to promote to a variable called only NPC has to arrive. So if you've got a task you see in some games like Skyrim where you're walking with the NPC, but if the NPC gets there before you, it just automatically spawns you there, begins the cutscene, etc. You don't really need to follow the NPC to do it. So that's why I've added it there. And then the next little add I'm going to do is a little safety check that since the NPC's acceptance radius is 5, she will try to get as close to that vector point as we give her. But we've set it, if it's less than 200, to just complete the task. So you could set both to 200, but instead the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to drag the NPC in and I'm going to get her AI controller and I'm simply going to call stop movement. And what this will do is tell the NPC whatever movement command you're currently running, stop it. We don't need it anymore. And then I can plug it in. And this is just a nice little cleanup routine, just so we can really play with the numbers and we don't have to worry about everything syncing up. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to come into the class settings and just add some nicety stuff, such as a display name of follow NPC and a category of NPC. But you can see now, if we come back to our quest here, we could successfully add in our own follow NPC task here, and it will ask us which character and what destination. However, I did say we were going down the subquest route, which is true. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to come and create a brand new quest in here, and you can name it anything you want, but to keep it in line, I'm going to call it the exact same as my current quest, the meet, but I'm going to call it _ Lily follow. So it's part of this quest, but it's a subquest. So in a previous tutorial, I showed you how to create a hidden quest. So what I'm going to do is set my quest master quest, and now that means I can come into my class default and untick show UI because we don't need it anymore. While you're debugging creating the quest, it might be a good idea to have this turned on so you can actually see what's happening, but for now I'm going to keep it turned off. So the majority of this quest in here won't need a description because you're hiding the quest, it's just a subquest. So what I'm going to do from here, the first thing I'm going to do is call follow NPC, and we're going to say the NPC of Lily Thompson, and where do we need to go? We need her to go here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a target actor, just a target point, so I can just drag it around. So I'll say she needs to get to here, and then I can come in, I can shift right click the location, and then back in our subquest, I can shift click the location there, and that will cause her to walk up to there. What I'm going to do is come in and set a task description just to make it a bit easier for the developer. So I'll say first location bikers. So now that we have the first objective in our subquest, we need to actually begin the subquest, which is really simple to do. So I'm going to come into where I want it to begin, which is after we've sat talking to Lily. And on this quest here, I'm going to come in, add an event of begin quest. And this is just exactly where I'm going to call my Lily follow quest. So since we've added the subquest as an event starting here, we need the subquest to be able to tell the parent, hey, I finished, I need to proceed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my data tasks here, I'm going to create a new data task, and I'm just going to call it DT follow NPC complete, and then I can just tidy it up a little bit in here. And what this now means is that on the parent, we can drag off and check for a narrative data task has been complete, like so, and for reusable in the future, I'm going to rename mine to the quest _ the name of the character, and on the description override, we can type follow Lily. And now this task will sit waiting until we tell it that we've completed this follow NPC complete. And the way we do this is back on the subquest, is just on the final node, so in this case I'll use this quest state, we can just come to the events and complete a narrative data task, plug in our NPC follow complete. All I need to do is shift right click the argument and then shift left click paste, like so. And of course this quest state I'm going to expand on, put more locations in, but at the end of the subquest you will have a success where you can put the event. And now what this will do is come to the quest, she will run up and talk to us. Once she has it, we'll begin the subquest and it'll say we're waiting for you to follow Lily. But the subquest, which is all hidden, is going to tell her to move to a location and wait for me or the player to get there, and then it will complete the narrative data task, which will tell the parent, hey, I've completed it, move on. So if we test it now, and you can see after we talk to the final, she'll run up to us.
Hey there, new guy.
And start the dialogue.
Saw you wandering around looking like a lost sheep. Come on, let me show you.
Perfect, and now she's walking to the first location. As you can see, my nav meshes are a bit messed up. So if your nav meshes do mess up like that, all you have to do is press P, and wherever there's an obstacle that'll stop, you can come in and add a nav modifier volume. And as you can see, as you place it in, it'll instantly start updating your nav mesh to put room around it. So I'm just going to stretch it around these two bikes and just close it off with enough space that she can clearly see there's an obstacle here. You have to find an alternative way around. And I'm just going to quickly do that for all the different cars as well. There we go. So let's give it a test. So you'll see if I run up to Tyler and talk to him, she will start running up to me.
Hey,
there we
guy.
go.
Saw you wandering around looking like a lost sheep. Come on, let me show you around.
And you can now see it's telling us to follow Lily. So you can see nothing's happened that she's moved up there, but if I walk up to there, fantastic ladies and gentlemen, we now have a super basic way and easy to create a follow quest. But what we're going to do is we're going to run through it again. So without all of the making, we're just going to run through the process of actually using it. So at the moment, I've got Lily to walk to this target here, but her next step is I want her to walk behind this car so we can point it out. And the plan is to just basically circle all the cars until you get to the hot dog stand, and I'll tell her in a different tutorial, go and get some food, you'll get some food, we'll continue the follow quest and we'll be done. So if you press P, you'll see that my current way to get behind the car doesn't exist. I can't do it. So I'm just going to shrink this down, move it away just to give me enough room. Because this green thing is where Lily can walk. We can walk anywhere, we can jump on top, but I'm not going into programming Lily to jump on top of cars, that's not what I want. And I'll do the same for Hitoshi's car, and you'll see I have to move this away, that'll give him enough room. Move this one away as well, there we go. And I might need to move some of these down and expand them a bit. All these walls are is to just stop the player in my game from leaving. There we go, so now I've given the NPC a clear way to get around everything. So in order to use the follow quest, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the target point, or any actor really, to the place where I want it to begin. So right there, I'm going to come and shift right click the location to copy it, and I'm going to come back into my subquest, and I'm going to add in a follow NPC task. And I'm going to shift left click paste. The tag will again be Lily Thompson, and I'm just going to give it a quick description of second location Tyler, just so it's easier to understand in the viewport. And then all I'm going to do is move this complete task, so shift click to the last one, shift click, and I'm just going to delete it off. It only needs to exist at one place. If you find it that you're running the game and your task is completing halfway through, chances are you've left this in somewhere. And that's it. It's really that simple to just add a new location into it. And then on the parent quest, it's literally a begin quest and a task checking for the data task of follow NPC complete to be completed. And then it will carry on. So now that we've added the second one, but I want talking to run through mine at the same time. So when she's walking to the bikers, I want her to speak. So on the quest branch, I'm just simply going to come in and add an event of begin dialogue, and I'm going to paste in my world dialogue. And what I'm going to do is come back to the world and grab the name of the one I wanted to say, which is first up, we've got two biker babes. So I'm going to come and shift click the name, and then back on the subquest I can shift click to paste it in. She will begin walking and she will say, first up we've got the biker babes, blah blah blah. And it should now give us the illusion that she's walking between them and introducing us to her. But you will see there is a glitch that can happen where if she gets to here before she finishes talking, if we do that for each dialogue, it will cut it off and we'll not be able to get to the next one. So we need to prevent that, and we need her to say, when you get here, play the dialogue, then wait for it to be finished before you move on. And it's really simple to do. So I'm just going to come back into my subquest where I currently have the start of the quest, move to a location and play a dialogue. And then all I'm going to do is come after here and add a play dialogue node again. And I'm just going to alt click to hide the other ones. And then this dialogue we're waiting for her to play before the quest will continue is simply going to be the ID that I've just done. So I'm going to tick hidden and retroactive, meaning if she is still talking when we get to the location, it will move to this task and wait for her to finish it. Otherwise, if she gets to the task before the dialogue has ended, then this retroactive will come back up and pick it up from before. And then the next step will be to simply move her along to Tyler, and then I'm going to again add the event to the Tyler, tell him to begin dialogue, tell her to talk about Tyler, which will be this one here, and then we can do the exact same afterwards. So now you'll see if I run up to the girls and talk to them, she will run up to me and start the dialogue.
Then she will. Biker babes, Roxy and Raven. Don't let their tough exterior fool you. They're real rock stars on and off the track.
There we go. And now it's still telling us to follow Lily, so I'll run up and follow her. There we go. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen.
But don't worry, you'll put him in his place.
And as you can see, she moved up to it, she continued playing, and it didn't let us proceed to the next task on the subquest. If I walk up to her now, nothing will happen because I've not programmed it, but it's marked it as complete. The next step will be for me to do some offline work where I move it to this one and talk, move it to this one and talk, and then that's it. We can go from there. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. A super easy way to add a follow task into narrative. It's super simple to use. I hope this helped, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm going to continue making this quest into what I need, and I will see you next time.